Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Professor Robert Pape will be with us to talk about the Iran bombing campaign and how it drags us into an escalation trap. And later in the show, Grace Blakeley will be with us to talk about the significance of last week's Green Party victory in the UK. Also on the program, the Senate votes down Tim Kaine's War Powers resolution that would have reined in Trump's criminal war on Iran. Fetterman, the only Democrat, I say with heavy quotation marks, to break rank. The House votes on its version today. The death toll from the bombing of Iran tops 1,000. And the U.S. kills at least 80, sinking an Iranian vessel coming back from a training exercise. Sri Lanka's Navy rescued 32 of the Iranian soldiers. The Pentagon is running out of its stores of precision weapons less than a week into the war, which Trump denied on Truth Social, calling the U.S. supply infinite. We'll never run out. Don't even ask about it. Some Senate Democrats are refusing to rule out voting for supplemental funding for Trump's war in Iran. More on that in just a second. Crude oil prices skyrocket to their highest since June 2025, when Israel bombed Iran the last time. Israeli attacks kill at least 10 in Lebanon, and the closure of Gaza's border presents a new hunger crisis. Trump is supposedly calling Republicans on the Hill to ask them whether or not he should fire Kristi Noem. Senator Steve Daines of Montana is retiring. Yet another Republican hitting the eject button. Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis says he's weighing pardoning election denier Tina Peters amid Trump's public pleas. Every Democrat in his state says don't do this. And lastly, what?
This is because he's about abundance.
He's their guy. And lastly, Pam Bondi's DOJ will investigate the most pressing issue of our time, Joe Biden's use of the auto pen. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's an Majority Report Thursday. Hello to Matt. Hello to Brian. Also wanted to shout out Julie, who works on our show, of course, Sam's sister, both things equally important. Happy birthday to Julie. It's Julie's birthday today.
Yeah,
so
happy birthday.
Yay, happy birthday, Julie. Shout out to Julie. Really looking forward to both of our conversations today. But let's start, of course, with the Iran war, the news that the story that is just obviously the most important in the country right now. The U.S. and Israel are continuing to carpet bomb parts of Iran, including Tehran, one of the oldest cities in the world. There's videos of damage to historical sites in addition to the 1,000 plus that are dead at this point. It's a city of nearly 10 million people. That's larger than the population of New York City. Just imagine the circumstances that what things would look like if Iran was carpet bombing New York City. We have such privilege at being at the center of the imperial core that we can't even fathom what this must be like, except when you see the horrific images coming out. Death tolls at least 1,000, as I mentioned. We have bombed schools. We have bombed hospitals. And earlier this week, the U.S. military confirmed that they've been using these B-2 stealth bombers. You may remember that name because those are the bombers that can typically carry the 2,000-pound bombs that the Israelis were dropping on the people of Gaza in the midst of in the height of the genocide, and that was at issue with the Biden administration, whether or not they should be using 2,000-pound bombs in a densely packed urban area of 141 square miles with 2+ million people in it at the time. We're using these tactics in Iran at this moment. This is the expansion of the Palestine Laboratory, Anthony Lowenstein's thesis and his great book. Apparently, I saw Trita Parsi was pointing out that it appears that the Israelis and perhaps the Americans are using AI bombing without any human oversight. That is his assessment based on the pattern of bombing here. So yesterday, Tim Kaine's War Powers resolution failed. Rand Paul was the only Republican to break, and then John Fetterman was the only Democrat to not support the War Powers resolution. And it's just amazing because, of course, you had like a week or so of the I'm concerned dance from Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. Susan Collins up in 2026, and you guys know how we feel about Graham Plattner taking her on. But in this vote, yes, there was just one Democrat, technically, to defect here, John Fetterman. But that is separate from the issue of the supplemental funding that is coming up right now. And we mentioned this yesterday, but I wanted to highlight these quotes from the top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and also Chris Coons, if we could just put this on the screen. So the supplemental funding here, like after giving the Pentagon $1 trillion, they're still running low on these precision munitions, both missiles and interceptors. So the White House wants $50 billion in supplemental emergency spending to help pay for this criminal war in Iran. And here is what was said yesterday in Politico. But Democratic votes will be needed to pass any emergency funding package in the Senate, and minority party leaders say they will need far more details from the Trump administration if they are going to consider support for new Pentagon cash. Here's Chuck Schumer's quote. Before you can feel satisfied about a supplemental, and I haven't seen it, you need to know what the real goals are and what the end game is. Then here's Chris Coons, Joe Biden's protege, one of the most conservative Democrats in the Senate. He's a senior appropriator. He's
the corporate state of Delaware.
His quote is that he wants to, quote, make sure we are making all the investments we can, end quote, to keep U.S. troops safe. If you read between the lines there, that is Chuck Schumer and Chris Coons saying that they are not opposed to supplemental funding, the $50 billion for this criminal war in Iran on principle. They just need to see some more details first before they commit to it.
I would zero in on the next quote too. The American quote: "The American people can get questions answered about the failures and planning that led to some of the challenges, loss, and mistakes in this war." We have the answers. We have our answers, Chris, which is that we don't want this war. So what Chris Coons is saying by keeping this question open, even though his base is completely decided, yeah, no, it's not for me, is to say, well, actually, hear him out. Hear the Trump administration out. It's dressed up as a call for questioning, but actually it's giving them more rope and saying, hey, can you give us a little bit more help so we can help you, Mr. Trump, and giving this money to the Pentagon so they can help Israel conquer the Middle East.
They're not alone, because then there's another story in Politico this morning about the top Democrats on the Senate Armed Services Committee, which includes Gary Peters of Michigan, Tim Kaine of Virginia, and Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, and Jack Reed of Rhode Island, who is the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Now, notice that I just said Tim Kaine's name. He introduced that war powers resolution, but he's not ruling out supporting $50 billion in additional funding because of what I just spoke about here. Because the U.S. stockpile is currently under strain for things like missiles, interceptors, and smart bombs, because of how much has been sent to Ukraine since Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine and since that war has been ongoing. The supply has already been depleted. So they do need $50 billion if they want to pay for this criminal war. So you don't give it to them because it's a criminal war.
Well, and Hegseth is going to the press saying, actually, we've actually moved past the need for these highly sophisticated bombs that we've been using up. So we can. There's no way Iran can outlast us. Okay, well then you don't need democratic votes.
Well, here's Jack Reed though, not committing to opposing this supplemental funding.
Will you vote to authorize this war?
Constraints. I will vote to invoke the War Powers Act, which would give the president 30 days to terminate the operation, except for activities defending the state of Israel, which is critical to our alliance on Israel.
Senator Jack Reed, I do appreciate your time this morning.
Our reliance on Israel.
What?
This is where we can play this next clip of the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, being asked by Tony Two Cuts Dokapol in a very respectful manner with hushed tones about the fact that the American public overwhelmingly does not support this war. Reed just said it. We need, I mean, because our munitions, our precision munitions are depleted, even if, you know, we on principle are against this war, sure. We have to send, replenish with $50 billion extra to support Israel. This is how regime change wars and endless wars begin. This action by the Trump administration is roping these senators who are corrupted by the Zionist lobby and the military-industrial complex.
Who want this too?
Into supporting it, but they want, but like, you know, they want it too. I understand what you're saying, but it's just it's a sunk cost fallacy because the action was so aggressive and because the munitions already were in short supply. They're able to be like, oh, well, do you support the troops? Do you support Israel? If you do, you better fund their defense. And this is the president of Israel. Obviously, Netanyahu's the prime minister. Herzog's the president. Addressing the question as to how are you going to work around the fact that like 70 to 80% of Americans oppose this war with Iran?
I just have one more question because I'm cognizant of your time.
It's okay.
What do you think this war does to the U.S.-Israeli relationship going forward? And I ask because it's not a popular war in America.
I understand it's not a popular war in America because, you know, usually people do not know the intricacies of the war, and they also compare it to previous and other wars. This is a unique war. And I listened very carefully to Secretary Rubio's statements yesterday in Congress. It's a unique war. It's a focused war. It is a war that comes in a time where you can really bring real change in the Middle East for the future.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The American public may be unhappy with another endless war, but this is our opportunity to strike, and they just don't fully understand the intricacies of how important it is for Israel to expand into Lebanon, into Syria, to steal more and more land, to create a buffer zone to the buffer zone, to complete the genocide. And Iran's capabilities are a threat to them in that region. So in this supposed democracy, public opinion for the supplier of the weapons that allows Israel to behave so belligerently is just a small obstacle that we have to get over. And that's what the money is for. Remember what Ilhan Omar said? It's all about the Benjamins. And then you had a public rebuke by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats for stating this exact fact. We are in this position now where this war is so... They didn't even bother to manufacture consent for war with Iran because of how distant our government and the military-industrial complex and that apparatus is from the levers of public opinion. This is about the fact that our democracy is already gone in its current structure. Under Citizens United, the explosion of dark money, you have the Israel lobby, you have the military-industrial complex, you have all of these forces that are financially invested in Israel's expansion, having completely conquered our government. They have the Senate minority leader, they have the House minority leader, they have the Senate majority leader, they have the House majority leader, they have the president, they have a good amount of Democrats and the entire Republican Party, save for like Massey and Rand Paul. And this is because of political corruption. And we were told for many years that it was anti-Semitic to speak about this. The idea that this amount of money is influencing our politics. And there you have the president of Israel saying that the money has been built up to such a degree that we don't even really need to consider public opinion when we're trying to push this forward. In fact,
voters don't understand the nuance.
The voters are dumb.
Democrats and Republicans agree with that. Well, Republicans probably think
no, Democrats
do. Democrats definitely do. They think people are too stupid. Chuck Schumer thinks you're stupid.
They think that they think that they know better than the 90% of the Democratic base of their own party at this point that doesn't support Israel's military action, the half of the American public that thinks that they're committing genocide. We know better in the hallowed halls of the Senate, which is really just how corrupt people justify their actions and their existence. And there's also zealotry on some of those people's behalf as well. But for many, even like a guy like Jack Reed, it's just the blob. You get caught up in it. And
people of that age, sorry to cut in, but the Democratic Party has seen this rights be rolled back. You lost Roe versus Wade. These are fundamental failures. And whose heads have really rolled because of that? Pramila Jayapal is the only person who's taken any kind of accountability, and frankly, she is probably the one of them that could have stayed
in the House.
And there's been no accountability. We're still dealing with the Clintons.
At this point, you have to blame, and I'm including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy, all of these people in the supposed Fight Club. We heard about this 3 months ago. They leaked to the New York Times that they are coming up with an alternative power structure to challenge Chuck Schumer, and we've heard nothing since then about that. I blame them for not taking this fight publicly. It is endangering our democracy. The Republicans make a spectacle about their internal disagreement, and it has done absolutely nothing to hurt them politically. Nothing. The Democrats shut off the public from debates about internal leadership structure and then do it in hushed tones because they're more institutionalists than they are democratically responsive. And it's a major, major problem. So love for Bernie, love for Warren. It's past time to take this fight publicly. We need it. It's an existential issue.
Yep.
In a moment, we're going to be talking to Professor Robert Pape. First, a word from our sponsors here. This episode of The Majority Report is brought to you by Wild Grain. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, seasonal pastries, and fresh pastas. And unlike many store-bought options, Wild Grain uses simple ingredients you can pronounce and a slow fermentation process that can be easier on your belly and richer in nutrients and antioxidants. There's no preservatives, no shortcuts, plus all items conveniently bake in 25 minutes or less with no thawing required. Last weekend, I enjoyed some Wild Grain. The chocolate chip cookies. Oh my God. I'm already getting so hungry thinking about it. They also, I have these croissants that I made, and I know Sam has spoken about it before. It is so easy. It comes in the package. You stick it in the freezer. You just heat up your oven, and it's like the perfect cozy bread or snack in your house, and you don't have to go outside if it's a little cold or if the weather is bad. Wild Grain's boxes are fully customizable. In addition to their variety box, they have a gluten-free box, vegan box, and a new protein box. It's so convenient. They shipped it right to me. Cookies right there, croissants right there. I'm really excited to make the bread probably tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to do that. It's phenomenal. Imagine having fresh bakery quality bread, pastries, and pasta at home without any trips to the store. And don't just take my word for it. They have over 40,000 five-star reviews and have been voted the best food subscription box by USA Today for 3 years in a row. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering you $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life when you go to wildgrain.com/majority to start your subscription today. That's $30 off your first box and free croissants for life when you visit wildgrain.com/majority, or you can use promo code majority at checkout. Link in the episode and video descriptions and at majority.fm. And lastly, hey, raise your hand. Brian, sorry to be Sam and throw you under the bus. If you've been putting off a dental cleaning, an annual checkup, or honestly, any kind of doctor's appointment, yeah, my hand is up too for the podcast audience. Well, when something feels off, I am tempted to self-diagnose just to avoid it, spiral, maybe downplay it, just say it's probably fine. And if that sounds familiar, well, this year, let's do some things differently. Let's find doctors that we love and book appointments with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states. Dermatology, dentistry, primary care, eye care, or one of the other 200-plus specialties offered on ZocDoc. You can easily search by specialty or symptom to build a care team that is right for you. And you want to see a doctor in person? Great. Prefer a video visit? You can do that too. When you're ready, you can see their real-time availability and click to book instantly. No phone tag, no waiting around. The appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I found my dentist through ZocDoc. I think all of us here have found doctors or dentists or something like that, psychologists perhaps, through ZocDoc. And I'm actually, I am seeing my dentist found through ZocDoc next week. So I'm not putting it off anymore, even as the ad read is scolding me. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/majority to find and instantly book a doctor you will love today. That's ZocDoc.com/majority, ZocDoc.com/majority. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message and today's episode. Link down below in the video and episode descriptions and at majority.fm. Quick break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Professor Pape. We are back, and we are joined now by Professor Robert Pape, Professor of Political Science at the University of Chicago, founding director of the Chicago Project on Security and Threats, and publisher of the excellent Substack, The Escalation Trap. Professor, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Emma.
Of course. So this bombing campaign in Iran, which the Trump administration has dubbed Operation Epic Fury, is supposedly aiming for regime change. But your book your research, also on your Substack, has been analyzing air campaigns since World War I. What is the rate of success for air campaigns for toppling governments?
It's brutal. We are O for every effort tried. So the weight of history now is bearing down on President Trump, not just Iranian drones. For over 100 years, states have been trying to topple governments with air power alone. And just, think about what you're hearing now, how magical it would be if everything would just work out in a few days, quick and decisive, almost nobody dies maybe even on either side except leaders. Well, this has been seductive. It was seductive in the dumb bomb age, seductive even more in the precision age. And I now call it the smart bomb trap, because we're getting trapped. And it has never, and I'm choosing my words carefully, never worked.
Never. 0%.
It's zero. We really don't have. So my book, Bombing to Win, goes through 40 air campaigns. Okay, so just to put some numbers on this, we've probably conducted about another 15 or so, not just the United States, but other countries since that book. And I've published an article in Foreign Affairs on each and every one of those, including last summer's. typically before they happen or early on to explain what to expect. There's another piece by me in Foreign Affairs coming out in a few days, so just be aware. It's the Pape article on the precision air campaign, and all I have to do is just update it with the concrete details, because the same problems come up. And right now you're seeing it's all the target set was splendidly struck on Saturday morning. It really was, but it was always going to be splendidly struck. There's nothing extraordinary about that. We've been doing that for 30 years with precision air power. There's some new tools a little bit, but that 100% tactical success did not lead to strategic success. So it did not take down the regime. It did not even set the regime back from being able to lash back. And then first, your listeners will remember, we talked about, that was just the spasms of the dying body. No, this is a coordinated surgical precision air campaign. These are precision-guided drones. So they are targeting in ways the Air Force, I've taught for the U.S. Air Force on parallel attack. I know quite a bit about all these details. And the bottom line is what you are seeing is Iran taking a page, not just with drones, but the actual strategy of parallel attack. And you're seeing that it's paralyzing the airports. We're trying to now madly rush to get 500,000 to 1 million Americans out in days when the airports are shut down. You see, this is what we're up against now is the typical failure in the smart bomb trap. We're in stage 2. Stage 1 happened. We're now in stage 2. There's a stage 3. So if you've been reading the Substack, you just know what's coming. Okay. And
well, can you explain that? Can you explain that a little bit then? I mean, I want to also go back a little bit in history to talk about the transition from dumb bombs to the precision age and how it hasn't made a difference at all. But take us through the different stages of the escalation trap, also the name of your Substack, but also the smart bomb trap, which is specific to this bombing campaign.
Yeah, so we've always had this allure that we could use air power to take down regimes. We call it taking down the regime. With the precision age, however, once you know, you can highly reliably, 80-90% of the time, the bombs will land within 5 to 15 feet of the target, and the blast radius is 25 feet. Now you know that you can put the bomb right in an office in a building, not just simply on a building or on a city block. That, from the day one of these precision weapons, led to the idea of killing, we call it decapitating leaders. The first precision air campaign in history was by Ronald Reagan, April 1986, to decapitate Gaddafi in Libya. We missed him. He stepped out of his tent, literally seconds before the bombs fell, killed everybody in that tent, including his 3-year-old daughter. And then 2 years later, he retaliated by having his Libyan agents blow up Pan Am Flight 103, killing 271 civilians, 190 Americans, 2 years after, you see. So the bad guys don't have to respond right away. Here, what you're seeing is this is stage 1. We have the 100% tactical success on that Saturday. Now we're in stage 2, where it has failed to take down the regime or even stop it from coherently lashing back in ways that are incredibly painful to us. And we don't even know where the fissile, this enriched uranium is. My goodness gracious, we've got nothing for all this bombing. And so what are we doing now? We're trying to double down. And at the same time, President Trump's looking for the golden off-ramp. He's trying to say, well, what can I claim I was doing? Even though I've given all these videos about I want to take down the regime, what can I say I got out of this? And that's what you see this mad scramble for in Washington. And people are very loyal to the president here. I'm not trying to be I'm very pro-American. It's not about being anti-anybody. But at the bottom line is we are in stage 2. And we are not coming out of this very well. And we have unleashed a wicked escalation on the region. And it's not clear to me Iran's just going to stop this. We've been really pushing this tiger pretty hard, and they're now pretty fed up.
I made the mistake of going into your replies on Twitter, and so I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. And this is not an argument I subscribe to. I'm just curious.
From the University of Chicago, Emma, I love this, and people are trying. They love the game. Can we get the professor? So that's okay. Let's play the game.
Yes. Well, so this is conservatives are saying that okay, your theory about this having about air campaigns having a 0% success rate, toppling governments since World War I, doesn't take into account the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they would say that that constitutes a success by your metric. What is your response to that?
Read bombing to win, of course. I'm not talking about nuclear bombing. I'm talking about conventional bombing. Gotcha. I make that absolutely clear. See, again, what happens in the game of gotcha here is they sort of pretend as if they've read the books, but they haven't actually read the book. All you have to do is go to Amazon, and you don't have to buy the book. Just go to read the sample, and you will see this completely taken off the table, not an issue here. Now, of course, if Donald Trump decides he's going to turn Iran to glass with nuclear weapons and kill 92 million people, that would be a different story. I will credit that regime change will happen with the death of 92 million people. So this is what, so again, this is the silliness that we get. And it's not just, by the way, social media. This is just what happens in the age of gotcha, where they try to, but let's keep going. I love the game. And maybe they'll score a point. So let's be honest about this.
Right. Keep it up.
I'm glad to hear the laughter of your folks. Let's enjoy, let's have a little humor in this really tragic,
horrible time. I mean, that's the show's mantra.
I like the game of get the professor. And maybe keep score.
Okay, let's do it. All right. Well, just wanted to ask you about. I was curious about your reaction to that. But let's go back to Iran here. And if you, sorry about that. So
we'll bring me back on, and you'll have another group of them.
Absolutely. Once we have more time. But I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the history of precision bombing and what constitutes precision bombing, what bombing campaigns looked like prior to this age and what they look like after, and why.
A big Substack. Yeah, just because people want to know about the mechanics, I did a big Substack on this yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, the key thing to know is that word precision, we've used that even in World War II. And in World War II, we had a thing called a Norden bomb sight that the British didn't have. And the British bombs fell within 5 miles of their target. So just think about that for a moment. American bombs were called precision because half the time we could get them within 1,000 feet. So just think about that for a second. So had we bombed Auschwitz, for example, a big thing I've studied and written and so forth, we would have likely killed somewhere between 10 and 40,000 Jews in the bombing campaign to destroy 4 of the furnaces. Just to kind of put this in some perspective. And that was called precision. Now, what happened is in the 1980s, the electronics revolution, the digital age comes in. So just like digital, we're used to that. And that impacted lasers at first. You could use lasers to guide the target in. Then you could have GPS, just like we have on our phones, even better than lasers. So now we have a mix of laser guided. We used to use radio guided. That was also, but now they can fall, these bombs can fall with the laser guided. You can adjust the fins. So you can literally adjust the fins on the way down. So they fall even in moderate winds within about 5 to 15 feet of a target. Now, if you have a gale, it's not going to work. So Hurricane 1, you don't bomb. You're not going to do it. But this is really the why I call it the smart bomb trap, you see, because what happens is when you get the PowerPoint briefing, and it's going to be spiffy and it's going to look very professional, what does President Trump like to say, made for TV. It's going to look very impressive, and it's going to be true. We're any target we can visibly see we have a over 90% chance of destroying that target in just one go round. You might have to put a couple bombs on it, but you will be able to do that. That tends to create the illusion of control. Control over time, not just on that hour of contact on the first instance. So that's really the trap. And I've seen this. I've advised every White House since 2001, 2004, not this one yet, but the first Trump White House. And I've advised chiefs of staff of the Air Force, chief of naval operations, that's top Navy. So secretaries of defense. That issue I'm talking about, it's very seductive. Even when you have super smart folks, it doesn't matter Democrat, Republican, that temptation of control is really there, you see.
And when you talk about, if I could just jump in for a second, the fact that it's an illusion is really important to understanding here, the illusion of control and the trap that's coming in here, because can you speak a little bit about how your research has found that this kind of bombing campaign and this mode of warfare has increased kind of nationalist sentiment and does nothing except harden nationalist sentiment, but there's bloodshed. We've killed nearly 1,000 or over 1,000 people at this point in Iran, but in terms of effectiveness for the stated goals, that doesn't seem to be on the table.
That's exactly right. So before the bombing happens, there is the society and the regime. And often there's a gap between the society and the regime. And right now, President Trump has a 38% approval rating. So you could say there's a gap between the society and President Trump. But when you take the third actor in, a foreign military attacker, they are coming in and they're picking a government. You hear today, President Trump is literally looking at the list of possible replacements for the guy he just killed. Nope, not going to go there. It's like he's on The Apprentice and he's going to pick you see, this is not going to go down well in Iran. And and what you're doing is you're infusing the idea of nationalism, where the idea is they may not like their leader, but they don't want to be run by Donald Trump or anybody else, certain Netanyahu, Trump, or anybody else. And so what you're doing is you're changing the game, and you're changing politics inside of the target. And that is fusing that nationalism, the society, and the regime closer together. And it allows the regime to do more aggressive things. It makes it harder for the moderates, the pro-democracy moderates, to go up against their own regime because now they're henchmen of a foreign military power. If you don't mind, and analogies here with America, I think are very helpful. So we know that Iran has tried to assassinate President Trump several times. Well, what if they were to succeed tomorrow? Would Democrats take to the streets in droves, thanking Iran and saying, hey, come on over in New York to Times Square. We're going to party with you. I don't think that's going to happen. And you can see right away, they would lose the midterms badly if they did. That's nationalism here. And it's not because Democrats, of course, have any love for Donald Trump. It's because of nationalism. Same dynamics apply. This is really human nature. It's not a Democratic thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a tribal thing. People keep trying to complexify all this. Okay. I've been dealing with a lot of complexifiers for a lot of years. It's not that complex, but it's about politics. And when your eye is on mesmerized by that technology and you can go poof to any target you can see, you're really not thinking about that politics. And your intel, they can't see this coming because it hasn't come. So you can ask intel, and I've seen this happen, go out there and get me all the best intel on the emerging nationalism here, and it doesn't come. And that's why in the Substack, I'm giving some indicators here that are a little bit different here. I'm telling you what to kind of keep your eyes on a little bit. And you'll see that over time. I'm going to try to help understand. But the bottom line is that the regime now is probably more resilient than it ever was. This idea that we have destroyed it, they're playing a long game. And that's why Trump's looking for an off-ramp to say, what kind of deal can I get him to accept?
Lastly, what do you anticipate the outcome is going to be now that we are in the trap that you're describing? When you say Trump is looking for an off-ramp, is that even possible?
He can take it. It'll be a loser for him in the short term. So he's not getting out of this with a golden off ramp. That's for sure. Half of MAGA, half of the Republicans, now it's 44-44. You see what I mean in the Republican support for this. So they're clearly divided on this pretty aggressively. This is not just Democrat-Republican split anymore. And so even if he cuts a deal here, that the MAGA crowd is pretty angry at him right now. Now, if he goes further, he'll then take the risk of becoming Lyndon Johnson in the Vietnam War, where now the costs mount so much, and he's got to, and then he quits later. The political cost is even bigger. I'm not saying he'll step down, but you could easily lose the House and the Senate and maybe get close to 60 Democratic seats in the Senate. The Republicans aren't going to forgive him for that. So that's not going to be, these are his choices. Now, wherever he stops, tomorrow or 3 months from tomorrow, we have a wicked problem on our hands. There is 1,000 pounds of 60% enriched uranium, enough for 10 bombs, and another 10,000 pounds of 5 and 20% enriched uranium, enough for a couple more, and we don't know where an ounce of that is. So we can walk away from this, but there's a good chance that Iranian's not walking away from this. They're learning the lesson here that we've taught them a lot of lessons here. And I think that this is really the trap in the smart bomb trap. We are really in a negative sum world.
Well, Professor Robert Pape, thanks so much. The Escalation Trap is on Substack, and you can check it out over there. We'll put a link to that down below. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoyed it a lot, Emma.
Thank you. Quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Grace Blakeley, and we'll be talking about the UK Green Party's victory. We are back, and we are joined by Grace Blakeley, author, including of the excellent recent book, Vulture Capitalism, Corporate Crimes, Backdoor Bailouts, and the Death of Freedom, host of the Roundup podcast and publisher on Substack at graceblakely.com. Grace, thanks so much for coming on the show, back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this is, we covered this last week, the UK Green Party's pretty historic victory in this parliamentary by-election, but I need more context on British politics. Take us through why this was so significant, and what it means for, like, say, Labour and the future of that failing party, for example.
Yeah, so as your listeners will probably know, Keir Starmer, who currently leads the Labour Party, has been in power, has been our Prime Minister for a while now. And he took over after a period when the left was effectively leading and running the Labour Party under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. Now, Starmer was elected by the membership on the basis that he would kind of continue a lot of Corbynism, so particularly the kind of economic policies, redistribution, tackling inequality, etc. And then he flipped sharply to the right. So kicked out almost, anyone who was sympathetic to the left within the party, really rigidly centralized control. So he could really determine which people were able to get which seats, which allowed him to put loyalists in place for the upcoming election. And he really just purged the left. And for a while, that left us, those of us who are on the British left, feeling pretty disillusioned and hopeless. And kind of looking around to see where we could build from. And, there's lots of springs of hope. We have, a vibrant labor movement. We have lots of fantastic social movements, the environmental movement, but they had yet to kind of coalesce into a body that could represent everyone on the British left. We had Jeremy Corbyn attempt to try and start a new party in the form of your party. That didn't really work. There was a little too much factional infighting, and they weren't really able to get it off the ground.
What was that over, Grace? I'm just curious because I assumed that would be the more viable left option, but that didn't end up being the case.
It's complicated, and to be honest, I don't know the full ins and outs of what happened. But effectively, there are different people who are trying to work together, backed by quite different groups, and they don't trust each other, which is a problem that I think we have quite a bit on the left, which is like people trying to work together in pretty complicated and difficult conditions, not necessarily being able to kind of come together and work towards the greater good. What I've been really excited about with the Greens, I personally joined the Greens quite a while ago to encourage people to vote for the current leader, Zach Belansky. I've known him for a very long time. I know that he's a really good leader. He has great politics, great values, but also he's just a decent guy. And I think that's really come out over the course of this campaign. People can really relate to him. He comes across really well on social media and in the media. And that's really led to this big surge of support for the Greens, just showing that that big base of the left that was kicked out of the Labour Party really wants somewhere to go. And actually, when we're able to kind of rally around an institution like the Greens, we can bring so many more people in around these popular policies of wealth redistribution, investing in the green economy, no more endless wars, all of these sort of like basic common sense things that most people agree with, but just aren't represented among the mainstream political establishment. And that's what the Greens are really just doing right now.
Talk about Hannah Spencer, who won in Gorton and Denton, and what her campaign was centered around. I know she was a plumber, was focused on a working class kind of policy set, and also was strong standing up against the genocide in Gaza, for example.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things that Hannah Spencer did really well, the first of which was focusing on, as I said, those kind of key common sense issues that really resonate with most people, which is stuff like dealing with the cost of living crisis, what you guys would call the affordability crisis, taking a really strong and principled stance on Gaza, which a lot of people are extremely angry about. There is a significant Muslim population in the seat that she was running for. So that was obviously a rallying cry for them, but it was also something about which a significant number of particularly young people, and by young, I'm talking anyone under kind of 40, 50, was really, really passionate about and still are. There was also a real strength of Hannah's was that she was able to mobilize people to come out and fight and knock on doors and speak to people. And one thing that I'm consistently hearing amongst the activists who went to kind of volunteer, knock on doors and speak to local constituents was that they were really invested in listening to what people were concerned about and then taking that back and like orienting their political messaging around that. I think that was what was really exciting for me, was that the campaign showed what's possible when you get these like powerful movements of passionate people who are able to work together and like listen and then plan campaigning and messaging off the back of that. It is really exciting to see that kind of like movement building happening again in such an individualistic and kind of isolated society. And then the final thing, of course, was that she was very relatable. The Greens historically have probably been more of like a middle class party, uniting people who are to the left, but also socially liberal, progressive on the climate. And their task now is really to broaden that base. And to do that, they have to get more candidates like Hannah.
How have they responded to socialist movements in the UK? Have they evolved to be more amenable to socialism?
Yeah, so the UK Greens are slightly different from Greens in a lot of Europe. In like Germany and a few other European countries, Green parties are basically kind of liberal, so quite centrist, liberal in, I guess, the UK European sense of the word, like in the middle of the political spectrum, basically, often kind of like pro-market, but socially liberal, and obviously focused on green issues. In the UK, they've always been more left of center. We have a similar sort of electoral system as what you guys have in the US. It's a majoritarian system, so it really kind of militates against the emergence of third parties unless they have really strong local representation. So the Greens have historically been a kind of marginal force. They had a really powerful leader parliamentary leader in Caroline Lucas, who was just seen as a kind of really strong campaigner on the climate, on things like inequality. But it's really been since the left was kicked out of the Labour Party that the Greens have kind of been reorganized as a new force, a really strong force on the left of British politics. People have reacted to that in different ways. Some long-standing members have kind of been like, wow, okay, our party's changing quite a lot. But they can't deny the fact that in, soaking up all of this energy that exists on the left of British politics and that doesn't have any representation right now, the Greens are being propelled to a position that we haven't really seen before. And what's fascinating as well about this point in time is that we are seeing the breakdown of that two-party chokehold on British politics that's existed for a century. And new parties, for better or worse, are beginning to really like emerge and build power. And we will see what happens at the next election as to whether that will translate into parliamentary representation.
Well, that's my last question because I know we have you for a limited time. The one, when is the next election most likely? And two, can you speak about the rise of the far right Reform Party under Nigel Farage? We've been covering this for a while, but it feels obviously quite similar, just the polarization that we're seeing in our politics, even though we're still in this two-party system.
Yeah, so in terms of the next election, in all likelihood, we have a few years yet. It's really within the remit of the government to determine when the next election is. It has to be within a 5-year period. This Labour government will likely hold on for as long as conceivably possible because they are extremely unpopular.
Right.
And many of those MPs are going to lose their seats. So they're going to want to have as much time as possible to figure out how they can translate their parliamentary careers into nice, lucrative careers in the private sector, I'm sure. But, you know, we are facing this big challenge, which is the rise of the far right in terms of reform. And that has been something that's been building in British politics for a really, really long time. It was kind of, for a while, sidelined by the movement to leave the European Union. But the disappointment that has been associated with that process, as well as the ongoing profound mistrust and anger towards political elites, combined with the affordability crisis, has driven increasing support among the far right. What I will say is that this is a very age-dependent story. So right now, anyone basically under 60, like the Greens have a huge lead in the polls. You know, if it was just people under 60 who were voting, the Greens would be storming the next elections. It's the over 60 group, people who possibly kind of own their own homes, have maybe seen their living standards fall somewhat, and you know, maybe are socially a bit more conservative and have a tendency to kind of blaming particularly migrants and other underrepresented groups for that shift in their economic circumstances. They're the ones that are really driving that support for the far right. And yes, there is a story to be said here among their increasing popularity among young men, but this is really predominantly an age story here. So the question is, you know, how's that going to break down when we look at voting patterns? And also, can left parties really mobilize on the basis of that anger towards the political establishment and translate that into a more positive message around, okay, we can change things. We don't just have to boot all the immigrants out and hope for the best. We can instead think about this positive economic message that relies on redistribution and preparing for a kind of more sustainable and more equal future.
Home-owning boomers being racist and ruining our politics.
I didn't want to say it like that, but sure.
That's our situation too. So I'm glad to know that we're in somewhat of a similar boat. Grace Blakeley, I mean, Vulture Capitalism, if you haven't read it at this point, what's wrong with you? Check out her book, and then also graceblakely.com, publisher on Substack. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know that you were time limited, so I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great to speak. Bye.
Of course. Bye. Well, let's, there's Grace's Substack. She's great. She's great. And that book is phenomenal. I wanted to wrap up with one more story since we're not at 1 p.m. yet, so we can squeeze some more news in, because we didn't get to this the other day, but Kristi Noem has testified now. She testified in front of the Senate and House Judiciary panels yesterday and Tuesday. So, earlier this week. And apparently there was an item in Punch Bowl this morning that Trump is supposedly calling a bunch of other Republicans on the Hill to ask for advice about whether or not he should fire Kristi Noem. And apparently it was this exchange with Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, who asked her about this $220 million contract for this ad campaign that was awarded to a company that I think it was like 10 or 11 days or something like that. It was created eight
8 days.
So a week and change. That's how old this company was, that the DHS
you don't like startups?
I don't I don't like innovation. They got this major contract, and what do you know? It was connected to the husband of the DHS spokeswoman who resigned 2 weeks ago. So here is Kennedy asking Kristi Noem about that, and this was apparently the thing that made Trump most upset about her hearing.
What? Because he didn't get a cut?
Probably, or because she was getting more attention in an ad campaign.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it
Did the
correctly,
president
worked
know
with
you were gonna do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
Well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vought at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick, in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages. I just can't agree with Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. No politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Clear
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those
was,
ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March, I think within a week or
So
two.
they
I'm
are
not sure
still
of the
running?
update. The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
Is for the angel
I've gotta
families.
move. And all the money that the government gives us in contracts. And the angel family.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that one? It's fantastic.
The angel families
That's what
one?
she says to Kennedy. Have
Oh,
you
right.
seen that one?
Right. Well, let's play
to see this.
Let's play an example of this, because clearly this has to be why Trump was upset about it. Brazen corruption, giving contracts to your friends from, I guess, back in South Dakota. Come on, there's no way that Trump is really that upset about something.
I don't like that kind of business.
I run a clean operation here, okay?
The way Kennedy sort of dismissed the idea that she had Trump's permission makes me think that he has information that Trump has been unhappy with this prior to that line of question.
I think that's also why you're seeing that leak in Politico, that Trump is making the rounds, calling Republicans on the Hill.
She's such a showboat, which I hate.
And she's been in attention seeker, makeup, plastic surgery. These are all things I famously hate.
What does she think? She's in one of my pageants?
I honestly, maybe it.
Why is there a woman in her 40s on a campaign?
And why is she brunette? Hasn't she
come
dealt
on,
with
Christy.
that already? Look, girl, she's barely recognizable these days. But if you want us to go blonde, go blonde. It's not that hard.
But we have to watch these ads that she had no idea who was getting the contracts for.
Yeah, and this is why Trump is upset, is because of her desire to be a celebrity and prominently featuring herself in these ad campaigns.
Why do I love these wide open spaces?
I.
Remind me of why our forefathers came here. Not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chased the impossible, America has always rewarded vision.
Oh,
and
finally
grit.
Trump.
Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here, but that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President...
Whatever, man.
I did not appear in that ad until halfway through. They prioritized the slow motion video of Kristi Noem
On a
wrangling
horse.
cattle.
I love the idea that they still pay lip service to the idea that it'll come here the right way, which we're trying to make it harder to do when every single second there's anything happening in the rest of the world. Our first comment is, yeah, we're not accepting any refugees from there, even if it's our bombs that are causing it. This idea, like, it's weird that they even need to pay. I think it's a sign that, like, they know that fundamentally people aren't on board with this, frankly, Stephen Miller Nazi-style closing of the border.
And isn't it amazing when you contrast this like slush fund with the understanding that when Kristi Noem took over DHS, that she required that, and this was under, I think, the one big ugly ass bill, when after she got all of that money, $150 billion for DHS, they still had this policy that she had to personally approve any payment or any grant over $100,000, and that included like her new responsibilities as it related to things like disaster relief and funds that people would need just to have like the that would be, I guess, kind of greenlit in a normal circumstance. Any payment over $100,000 within a $150 billion budget means you're just putting every contract or grant on hold unless it appeals to Trump or it's like helps Republicans. But here's hundreds of millions of dollars in this slush fund for my friend and her husband.
Sponsored by the United States Department of Homeland Security is what it says at the end of that ad there.
Woo!
That is a 200 million. What is this? Nagu says $143 million of taxpayer dollars going to a company that has no headquarters, no website. Do you want to play this Nagu too before we?
Yes, do it. What number is this?
It's like right after.
Okay, yeah. Here is also another
This was the
exchange.
one, I guess. Is this a different?
This is the house. This has got to be though a different.
This is a different
contract.
company.
A different $100 million
Yes, no.
fraud that she's involved in.
Right, because I would assume. Let's hear what he's talking about here. I haven't seen this yet. This in just a second.
Two of them were
That's
chosen.
inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States. You identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll
Because
tell you
was
about
done
it.
According to
Madam
law.
Secretary,
It
the
was done by career
address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that were spent
Madam Secretary, the company,
inform
and then I'll
people
give you an
that the
opportunity to
laws-
respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And
so I guess the poly market odds on which Republican or which Trump administration official is going to get fired first, she's got to have like negative odds right now, Christine Noem, right?
Yeah, her or Pam Bondi.
I feel like Pam Bondi has eaten so much shit that it's like,
much.
I mean, she's right. Exactly. I think she does know
Pam
too
could
much.
hurt me.
Christy Noem is an easy scapegoat because they can
Go back to Pierre.
but Tom Homan, he speaks with more authority. I can't understand him, but there's something I trust more about what he says. And then Chris, you know, Stephen Miller is just in his ear like, she bungled this, we should have done it my way or the highway. And he's back on television now selling the Iran war to the public. Maybe we'll play his hysterical spitting in the fun half here, but I just am tickled by the idea that of all of these scandals, the thing that is embarrassing Trump the most is this expensive ad campaign that was incredibly corrupt going to her buddies. And he doesn't care about that on principle. He cares about it probably because he's seen the ad and he doesn't like how he's not central in it.
I think there might be a pattern of commercial media grifting going on by Kristi Noem, because this ad came out and it made waves in 2019, and the tagline is "Meth, we're on it."
I remember this. I remember that. So are you suggesting that, like you had suggested to me with Drake, that there are people that are working on Drake's ghostwriters that they're working on Drake's songs that they're putting in
to embarrass him,
to things to embarrass him secretly? Are you trying to say that that's the dynamic in Kristi Noem's ad campaign?
I just think they like to scam this way by giving media stuff, and they don't really care about what they put out and how embarrassing it looks. But let's just watch this meth campaign.
I'm on meth.
I'm on meth. I'm on it too. So am I.
So am I.
I'm on meth.
Meth is not someone else's problem. It's everyone in South Dakota's problem. And we need everyone to get on it.
I'm on it.
I'm on it. I'm on it too.
The implication is that not enough people are on meth.
A little bit too clever. If
I was gonna say, did Armando Iannucci write that commercial?
No, but okay. So it could work. It could work. The "I'm on it" turn of phrase. If all of the people that they showed previously weren't cuddly grandmas and boys on the football team, like they would have had to show them as struggling and having difficulty.
Well, I think,
but it's like everyone in your community's on meth. You got to get on.
No, they're
it too.
on it. Like we're on stopping it.
No, I get it. That's the divide.
No, I think you're both wrong. I think what they're saying is meth is something that it doesn't go to the stereotypes you usually think of, and it's a wider public health crisis. I'll just say the solution to that isn't an ad that's too clever by half. It's to treat it as a public health crisis.
No, Brian, you were right that I was wrong. So everybody in that ad is supposedly taking on meth.
Yeah,
together.
we're on it, boss.
Okay.
We're on meth.
That's the double entendre.
Okay, that's the double entendre.
We're on it now.
I didn't know if there was a transition to the people that were like tweaking on meth to the others who were helping fight it, but it is a little too convoluted for a PSA, I gotta say.
But I hope they got a nice little government contract
It's
for
probably
it.
$100 million commercial. Probably coasters in every bar in South Dakota. It says "Meth, we're on it."
We honestly probably should try to find some of those T-shirts in the way that we have that Jeb merch, somewhere around the office. That's like that's a collector's
I haven't
item.
seen the Jeb Cup in a while. We still got those.
It probably hasn't been washed in like 3 years. I'm not touching that jib cup. So, folks, we're gonna wrap up the free part of this program. We're gonna head into the fun half shortly. Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning with the Jacobin show? And I know you were on the Vanguard last night.
Yeah, I was on the Vanguard yesterday talking about Plattner and anti-Semitism and other stuff. Go check that out. Tomorrow, Jacobin show, talking with Bronco Marchich about the Iran war, going into some of the right wing's response to it. And yeah, that'll be tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time.
Hello, Brandon.
Hello, Emma.
How you doing?
I'm actually not doing well, both personally and I guess as a content creator. Personally, I think I have a touch of the flu.
Oh no!
As a content creator, no, that's the minor thing. As a content creator, I'm being censored, I think, actively by YouTube. So for fans of the discourse, you may have noticed that twice this week the live stream has gone down because I've been accused of violating the firearms policy on YouTube for live streaming, because you're not allowed to have anyone handling firearms in a video and a live stream. Now, the first time I got dinged for playing that video clip of those Cuban expats who tried to raid Cuba, and they said
But you're
that they were
not doing that. You're showing a video of it.
You would think that. And then the second time, though, today I got hit again because I played a video of Glenn Beck playing a video of AI George Washington, which included a musket. And they said it include. So
that's outrageous.
It's never been a better time to support the discourse on Twitch. It's never been a better time to support the discourse on YouTube, even though I'm still allowed to post videos, just not go live. But yeah, I'm being censored. This is just another example of the ways in which I personally, not the left, but the left also, but I personally am constantly being victimized by the many tech overlords that run our lives. So, I'm asking you, the people, to come on the right side, the Brandon side, the side of the discourse. Free the discourse.
Absolutely. All right. Well, heed that call. And hello, Matt Binder. What's happening in your neck of the woods?
Hey, tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/Matt Binder, tune in for an episode of The Leftist Mafia.
Do so. And for my plugs, I guess it's been like a week since it's been released, but if people still haven't checked it out, check out my episode of Doom Scroll. Also, link down below. It's in like 2.5 weeks at this point. I'm going to be in Los Angeles, March 22nd. Bituation Room, live at Dynasty Typewriter, 3:30 p.m. Obviously, Francesca Fiorentini, Van Lathan, Ida Rodriguez, perhaps some other special guests. We shall see. But I know that tickets are scarce at this point, so if you want to come, now is the time to get the tickets. And they're like $30 plus a fee. It's going to be a really, really fun afternoon. Also, join themajority.report.com, please. Helps us stay resilient in times of censorship and with the third-party platforms that we're on being a little bit scary to rely on, as Brandon just elucidated for us. So join themajority.report.com. Help us stay alive in a independent media ecosystem that is not the best. So see you in the fun half.